I believe we're live now. My name is Jamie J. I am the CEO, founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. And this is Live with Bottleneck, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business and your life. We're going to be talking to Brenden from MasterTalk today. So stay tuned. We'll be back to you in about 38 seconds. We're just going to have a wonderful conversation. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Hello. Welcome to Live with Bottleneck, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business and your life. I'm your host, Jamie J, and I'm also the CEO, founder, and shareholder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, but that's not why we're here to talk today. Today, we're here to talk with Brenden Kumarasamy, and he's Brenden from MasterTalk, and we're going to talk about how to be a top 1% communicator in your industry. Pretty pumped about this. I hope you are too. And why can Brenden help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. Brenden is the founder of MasterTalk. He coaches ambitious executives and entrepreneurs to become the top 1% communicators in their industry. He also has a popular YouTube channel called MasterTalk with the goal of providing free access to communication tools for everyone in the world. Take note of this bio, by the way, too. This is how you write a bio. It's sweet, it's short, it's nice, it's in big fonts, easy to understand and read. Just FYI, a little side note there may help you out along the way. Keep your bio short and sweet and to the point, and then that gives you an opportunity to talk about the details later. So without any further ado, let me please introduce you to the one and only Brenden. How are you, sir?
Very good, Jamie. How about yourself?
I'm a little bit of a headache today, but I get to talk to you, and guess what? It goes away. Well, I wonder if maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are, and then maybe kind of what you've been up to, and kind of what you're up to now.
Yeah, for sure, Jamie. So, in a nutshell, my name is Brenden. I'm the founder of MasterTalk, and essentially, what I do is I coach ambitious executives and entrepreneurs to become exceptional communicators and relative to their industry. So, if you're an accountant, we make you the best communications superstar in your field relative to everyone else in it. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is where everything started. The nutshell of everything was when I was in university, Jamie. I used to do these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing football or rugby or something else dangerous that I was not equipped to do physically, instead, I did presentations competitively. And that's what led to the YouTube channel at the beginning, because I realized a lot of people needed this information, but they also couldn't afford a speech coach. So that's what led to me making the videos in the first place that ended up turning into a business.
That's fantastic. Isn't it weird how we kind of get into business, entrepreneurs? It's something we do, and it's something we have a knack for, and it kind of forms itself and presents itself to us, right?
Oh yeah, I'm like the best example of the quintessential anti-entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't the goal. My goal, if you had asked me at, 5 years ago, was to be a Fortune 500 executive. That's what I was looking to do. My parents, grew me up on minimum wage salaries. So the goal was just, how do you make really good money at a stable job that gives you a really successful life where you live comfortably and well? But in that journey, I guess some universe had different plans for me, given the impact I was supposed to make in the world.
I think that's awesome. When I was a little kid, I always, and this is one of those things where that saying, "Be careful what you wish for," right? What you ask for. And I remember driving down. I think it was 50. Was it 57? I think it was a 57 freeway in Irvine, California, right where kind of all the high rises are, right before we get onto the I-5 to go to Huntington Beach. We're driving down, and it's kind of dark. We're coming from visiting our family in Riverside, and I look up at this tall building and most of the lights are out and it's dark, except for the lights are on in this corner office. And this is me as a young teenager think, that's going to be me someday. I want that corner office and I'm going to be working there. That's going to be me with the lighter. Cause I get, so long story longer, I ended up in corporate America. For 12 years I spent in corporate America, 11 trying to figure out how to get out. So I was like, I don't want this. I don't want this. So you have to be careful what you wish for, right?
Absolutely.
Well, so tell me a little bit about what you think people need to do in order to affect better communication.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of exercises that we can go through in practices, but let's start with number one, which is a simple one. The biggest problem with most people's communication skills, or really the sheer idea of practicing it, is the languaging around communication is really negative. So when you think of words that you can spot, when you think of the word public speaking, you hear words like nerves, or stress, or boredom, or freaking out, or no thanks, or all of that anxiety that comes with it. So for me, the way that I reverse this psychology, because communication is a great thing, it's a positive thing, it's something that's supposed to help people make a difference rather than us seeing it as a chore, is asking yourselves this question, which is the following: how would the world change if we were an exceptional communicator? So how would the world change if we were exceptional communicators? And we start to reflect on that question, a lot of the negative words that we use around communication starts to fade away. We start focusing on the positive.
I love that. So tons of questions right now. One of them is, I thought, you know what? I got invited to speak this little thing. It was things for people that are just starting into speaking and stuff. And they said, yeah, we'll give you 5 minutes. You have to do this. And each slide's 10 seconds and blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
Boy, I got up there. I started sweating. I asked the room, I'm like, is it hot in here? And I invited my friends over and I'm like, I'm going to crush this thing. And I completely I just boggled it. Like, I just lost. It was so embarrassing. It was so terrible. And I was wondering, what can you talk to people that get caught up in their own selves? I've heard things like, Jamie, if you're being selfish, if you think about how it's affecting you, you have to be selfless and share what you have with these people to help them, and I've tried to do that, but it's tough, right?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
I'm completely with you, Jamie. So there's two ways to think about this. One is the mindset piece, and the other one is a practical thing that you can do as well. So let's start with the mindset piece, which is the following. The fear of public speaking will always be there, Jamie, including for me. There's always a fear that is associated to anything that we do. It's very difficult to make that zero. But the analogy I like to use is kind of like a boxing match, where one side of the ring is your fear, the fear associated with speaking, the anxiety around it. But the other side of the ring is your message. Why are you sharing it in the first place? Why does it matter? So when we think about fear versus message, the goal is not to eliminate the fear. The goal is to make sure that your message gets the knockout punch every time. And as long as your message is just a bit more important than the fear associated to that message, the message will always win and you'll always be successful at communication. I'm probably a great example of this. I'm not going to hide my age. When I started MasterTalk, I was fairly young. I was 22 years old, and I started coaching C-suite when I was 22 as well. So just so people understand this, because it's not to gloat, there are literally individuals that I coach today that have worked in their organizations longer than I've been alive. So how did I get the confidence to start this? How did I get the confidence to share ideas? Because I had a lot of fear to start the YouTube channel, especially to start making videos. The reason I was able to overcome it was for the 15-year-old girl who couldn't afford me. So it wasn't about the executive. Is it about saying, well, Sylvia's in high school, Sylvia's 15, and Sylvia can't afford a speech coach. So I have two decisions to make. It's either I make the videos for her because I'm the only person she can relate to, who's just a bit older than her, or I don't make the videos and she just listens to people who are triple their age that she'll never relate to. So I made a choice. It wasn't me saying, I don't have any fear anymore. I'm just going to jump on a camera and start presenting. No, it was about me saying that the message is actually way more important than the fear associated. So I'm going to mature myself. I'm going to gain the wisdom I need to be successful. I'm going to figure this out. And that's the difference.
I have a question. Have you figured it out?
The difference? Like
Yeah, you said, I'm going to figure this out.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think that the hardest thing to do is always to start, right? It's always to get started. But of course, as you coach, the first time I coached an executive, I was super nervous. I didn't really understand the process. They were a lot older than I was. But of course, over time, now of course I'm a lot more comfortable with it, because when you do the same thing 100 times, the process remains the same. But the advice I would give there for people is, a lot of people say, well, I'm not comfortable serving executives. I'm not comfortable talking to CEOs. I'm not comfortable doing this. So I was like reframing that. I always say, well, start with the person you're comfortable serving. Right? So if you're stressed around people who are double your age, start with the people who are younger than you. So I started coaching people who are in their teens. Then I moved up to people who are my own age. Then I moved up to people who are entry-level employees at companies, then seniors, then managers, then directors, VPs, all the way up to the top. But I didn't start all the way up to the top. And there's a great saying on this by the author of Solve for Happy, Mo Gadet. He says, when you help one person, the world gives you permission to help everyone else. So I encourage you to just help that person that you're comfortable with, because we all give advice to somebody, and then build your momentum until you're comfortable serving anyone.
So I want to go, and that's great advice. I love that. Because you have to get in the practice. You got to put in the foundation, and then you can kind of start building the walls, right, so to speak, and kind of branching out a little bit. But I have a question. So if someone is, how does someone know that their message is meaningful?
That's a powerful one. I would say off the top of my head, Jamie, every message is meaningful to somebody. Okay, I'll give you an example. So let's say somebody says, well, Jamie, what I have to share doesn't really matter. Brenden, what I have to share doesn't really matter. I always reply with something simple like this. Have you ever given advice on anything to anybody? And they always go, well, yeah. And I go, tell me an example. It's like, well, I told my brother yesterday I helped him with his math homework. And I go, and if you weren't there to help him with this math homework, what would have happened? And they say, well, that person, my brother wouldn't have done well in the test. They wouldn't have been successful. Okay, so is your message meaningful to the world? Well, I'm not sure if it's meaningful to the world. But then I reply with, well, is it meaningful to your brother? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so how many other brothers in the world need that message or need help with their math homework? And they reply with, well, a lot more than one. We probably don't know the exact number. It's a lot more than one. So the way that I think about it, or rather the definition of expertise and how I define it, Jamie, is not about having a PhD. It's not about having a master's degree. It's about being one chapter ahead of the next person in that thing. So in the same way, you know a lot more about virtual assistants and how to navigate them and how to use them more effectively and work with them to be more successful in your businesses and grow them. So I could learn a lot from you because you're at chapter 100 in that thing. In the same way, you can learn a bit from me about how to start a YouTube channel, how to grow that. There's always something that you're one chapter ahead than the next person. And your goal is not to ask yourself why you're at that chapter. The goal is to ask yourself, who are the people behind me that don't know what I know that I can teach? Super simple example of this. People are listening to this live right now. There's tips that you're writing down. Well, there's people who aren't listening to this live that you can just go, hey, this is what I learned from Brenden. That's still giving advice and helping people, just in a smaller way.
I love that. I think that's really interesting. One of the things that I want to be clear on too, we never stop learning, right? So we always continue to improve our craft. And you said it's always nice to because here's the thing. There's always going to be somebody bigger, stronger, better, more educated, However, they've never been in Brenden's shoes. They can try as they may to see and empathize with you or sympathize with you in anything, but they'll never have your perspective. And your perspective is, I think, what is meaningful. And I really, really want to kind of get this. There's so many of us out there that there's two words: imposter syndrome. And many of us don't feel confident. many times that's me still. Like I still don't feel confident. And if I walk into a room, like, oh my gosh, look at all these people looking know more than me, and who am I? And writing a book. Who am I to write a book? That kind of stuff. What do you say to those? Because this has everything to do with, right, being the 1% communicator, right?
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that or no?
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Imposter syndrome is a big piece to that. And what I always say to imposter syndrome, which is similar to the idea of what does an expert even mean? Let me give you the quick analogy that I give before that explanation, which is the following. Where do you live, Jamie? Just as an example, like what city, state?
Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, so let's say I came to Springfield, Missouri. I would say, you know what, Jamie? For some random reason, I'm in Springfield, Missouri, and I need your help. What should I do in the city? What should I buy? Where should I go? What should I eat? You're probably going to tell me. You're going to say, well, Brenden, you should go eat at this place. Let me drive you to this place. Let's go sightseeing over there. But you're not the expert of your city. Your dad wasn't the mayor of Springfield, right? Your mom didn't invent this city. So same way, if you come to my city, if you come to Montreal and you say, hey, Brenden, I'm in Montreal. Everyone speaks French. I'm confused. What do I do? What should I do in this city? And I go, hey, don't worry. Go eat at this place. Everyone speaks English there. Go there. Go to this place. Have fun over there. But my dad isn't the mayor of Montreal, right? I ain't no expert of Montreal. So why is it, Jamie, that when it comes to specific pieces of information, we're very comfortable sharing, oh yeah, you need directions? Yeah, I'll tell you, that we're not experts on it all. But when it comes to our subject matter expertise, the thing we actually spent years, decades in some cases, refining and crafting, we're very afraid to share those messages and those ideas. Why is there a dichotomy there? Why is there a gap? And I believe that the gap is because most people don't really get what an expert actually means. And it's not their fault. It's the society that tells us, hey, this is what an expert is. This is what an expert is. But the real idea is being an expert just means, well, I might not be the expert in Montreal, but I know more about Montreal than Jamie does, in the same way that Jamie knows more about Springfield, Missouri than I ever could. So I'm going to ask him and I'm going to get his help because I don't have access to the mayor of Springfield. Unfortunately, I can't go ahead and call that person and ask them for advice or tour guide.
We can give you his number.
maybe I should give him a call. Be like, hello. They're like, who's this guy? But that's really the idea, Jamie.
That is such an amazing. I've never thought of it that way. This should be an eye opener. It really should be an eye opener for a lot of people. And you know what? So many people don't share. They feel uncomfortable don't sharing, and it's almost a disservice.
It is.
It's like it's almost, and this is very hard for me. I'm not a social person. I don't like large crowds. If I go into a restaurant, I look at the table that I can have my back against the wall. I don't like. That's me. Like I am. Like we go to sit down, and my wife, is this chair okay? And I'm like, yes. If they don't have a table available at a restaurant in an area that I'm comfortable with, we don't eat there. Like it's crazy. Not everybody's like that, but other people may relate to where you're in you may get anxiety being around a lot of people, or they say the scariest thing in the world is speaking, right? Standing up on a stage. And invariably this is a digital stage, but you're standing up on a stage, you're completely comfortable. You're commanding the conversation, not in a negative way, but a positive way. But a lot of people have a hard time. When we were in the green room, I was like, so any questions? Like, no, let's rock and roll. Let's do this. A lot of people have questions, right? They want to make sure that they're doing something right. But if you were to use that analogy, say, hey, where do you live? Hey, if I was going to come to visit, would you tell me, some good restaurants I could eat at or something? Well, of course. It just really levels that playing field. And it's just a mindset.
Absolutely.
And
in the you're absolutely correct, Jamie. And in the context of podcasts, what I'll also say, because I was like mentioning it, I sound great right now. Oh yeah, this Brenden guy, he's like super commanding. He's like saying the right things at the right time. But there's a reason for that. Because this is my 400th podcast. Not my 4th podcast. Not my 40th podcast. My 400th podcast. And let me tell you a secret, everyone. When you get on podcasts as many times as I have, because I've been on a lot of like weird podcasts, like sports shows and a bunch of stuff that's nothing to do, just to practice, is eventually you'll realize that the host is always asking you the same set of questions. No one's going to say, "Hey, Brenden, what's your favorite color? And what does that color mean to you?" No one's going to ask you that. You're going to say, "Well, Brenden, I brought Brenden on for a purpose."
Wait, you just took my next question.
Dang it, I don't have a good answer for that. But the point I want to drive is, even if I look good on the front end, there's a lot of back end work that goes into that, which is the first time I got asked the question, "Hey, Brenden, where does imposter syndrome come from?" I'm like, imposter syndrome comes from this. And then it's only after the 50th time that I thought of that analogy. So now whenever I get asked that same question, I go straight to that analogy. But it's because I know better, because I already messed up the question on 30 other podcasts. So I'm able to answer it really well on this one and for everything else in the future. So always understand, everyone, it's a process, it's a journey. But the most important part of that journey is starting it. The most important part of the journey is starting it. If I never started MasterTalk, it wouldn't be in a place where I coach all these people and I have all the, I do well in the business, all this stuff. But if I never started the journey, I never would have built up that competence over time that leads to confidence.
I absolutely love that. I think that's fantastic. I think starting is a big challenge for a lot of people. So we have, and then I have one more question for you, and we can wrap up because I know we're getting close to the time here. But every year we have a word of the year, right? We had focus, finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions. We had listen intentfully and soulfully to engage notably. We had kindness. Kindness illuminates natural decency by creating neoteric energy through selfless statements. And then we had one called implement. And implement stands for impacting mindful professionals through leadership, equality, motivation, education, and to nurture thoughtfulness. And things like that, we really dive into that stuff, right? And when you say implement, we spent an entire year focusing on implementation and starting. And you know what came from that? What we're doing now. Like we implemented, we started a new thing that we didn't really think we could do, but we did it. We just started it. And when I say we, I'm talking about our team. But that just getting started, when you said that, really takes on a whole new meaning for me. And I think it's really imperative that people understand the power of implementation or the power of starting.
Absolutely. And congratulations on all the success. It's great to hear.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're still a work in progress, but so we're getting close to wrapping up here. How do people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So the easiest way to get in touch is definitely the YouTube channel. Just go ahead and type MasterTalk, and you'll get all the information, all the videos that I have for free. And if you want to message me directly, LinkedIn is by far the easiest, especially since most of the people watching are on LinkedIn. Literally just send me a connection request with a message, send me a direct DM, I answer all of them.
And what's your LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is just my name, so Brenden Kumarasamy.
And listen to this, everybody. Brenden Kumarasamy. I said it right. That's how you find Brenden.
You did, actually. You did really well.
Let me see. I'll put it up there. That's LinkedIn. Brenden Kumarasamy. Message him there. And then what else?
That's it.
That's it. Well, before we wrap up today, then, what would you like to leave us with? Words of wisdom or call to action or something somebody can do today that will make them help them make them a little bit better than they were yesterday.
Absolutely. So I'll leave with the book recommendation, some life advice. So the book recommendation is a book called Thirst by Scott Harrison. I think Scott is an incredible mind when it comes to storytelling communication. He's the founder of Charity Water, which is a nonprofit he started to help people gain access to clean water. But in the context of our conversation, the reason I think Scott is such a great read and his work is because he applies a lot of the principles we talked about today in the context of nonprofit. And most of us are for-profit organizations who are listening. So you can implement, if he could implement that on such a limited budget, imagine the possibilities that you can with what your business is and what you're doing in the world, whether it's a career or whether it's growing a business. And in terms of life advice, my final quote is, be insane or be the same. If you want to be like everyone else, that's totally fine. But if you want to do something magical with your life, you want to do something cool and interesting and important, you pretty much have to be a little bit crazy. I mean, don't you find it odd that I started a YouTube channel not on pranks or music videos or dance videos where I was kind of dancing around? No, I made videos on executive communication tips. And then I went to coach those executives, but I still live in my mom's basement. I still don't own a car. I love Justin Bieber. And I dance alone in my basement an hour a day. Isn't this bizarre? Why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because it's that very thing. It's those weird qualities about me that allows me to express my authentic self. And the more you step into the weirdness that you are, the more you communicate that weirdness to the world, not only will you attract the right people into your life, but you'll also be able to live a life that is completely your masterpiece.
I love it, man. That's so cool. So Brenden's insane.
Pretty nuts. That should be your word for next year.
Yeah. Insane or pretty nuts?
Yeah, just insane because it works with the eyes, right?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that is so awesome, man. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, that's it. It's such an awesome conversation. Thanks for having me.
Brenden, thank you so much. Can you hang out just for a second while I close?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we've been talking to Brenden at MasterTalk. Brenden Kumarasamy, reach out to him. He's a public speaking coach of MasterTalk. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Cannot recommend reaching out to him enough. Go check out his YouTube. And let me see. He's on Instagram. His YouTube here is MasterTalk. And then his LinkedIn. If you want to message him or connect on LinkedIn, by all means, go check it out. And his book recommendation was Thirst by Scott Harrison. I believe that's the correct spelling there. Highly recommend checking that out. Highly, like if you do one thing today, you want to become a better communicator, reach out to Brenden. Like that should be your number one call to action today. And then do everything else Brenden said. So let me go ahead and wrap up here. I've been talking with Brenden. He's a public speaking coach of MasterTalk, how to be a top 1% communicator in your industry. And we recently launched the new book, Quit Repeating Yourself. You can find it pretty much anywhere. You can go to quitrepeatingyourself.com to learn more. And if you like this video and our conversations here, we have we're nowhere near Brenden, but we just started out. We're having a lot of fun with it. You can check out bottleneck.online/BTV. That stands for Bottleneck Television, where you can watch conversations like this, where you can learn how to break through the bottleneck in your business today and your life. And then if you didn't see the last episode and you want to do that, we had a wonderful conversation with Mark Gutman, and we talked about how to tell the story of your brand. Mark Gutman, in case you didn't know that, used to be a story writer for some amazing people in Hollywood, part of the movies, Oliver Stone. He did a lot of great stuff, and he is just awesome to work with as far as storytelling, branding, and marketing and things like that. And then coming soon to your earbuds, we're going to be talking to Edwin Dearborn. He's an executive consultations of branded shareables. That's coming up Tuesday, October 12th. I can't believe it's already almost the middle of October at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about the 3 R's of business growth: referrals, reactivation, and reviews. So that's coming soon. Just want to say thanks so much again for tuning in to listening to my conversation with Brenden, the great Brenden Kumarasamy from MasterTalk. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget, create your own ripple.